He grinned broadly and remarked, "Thanks for the upgrade, my dear Logan," as he entered the living room. He stood there looking far too proud of himself, tossing his sunglasses onto the coffee table. He was dressed sharply in a suit and brand new shoes. Nearby, his suitcase was splattered with upscale brand names. Luxury hotels, first class to Hawaii. "This is the life I've been missing, Rachel." I couldn't help but chuckle out loud. He frowned as he questioned, "What's so funny?" "Oh, Logan." I shook my head. "You're completely unaware of what you've done. I'm 35 years old, and my name is Rachel. I've been married to a man who appeared attractive, but was nothing but problems for the past 8 years, and I work in cybersecurity." Logan was always the dreamer and the slick talker. Everything sounded thrilling to him, like some grand scheme. As he hopped from one notion to another, I was the one who kept a regular employment and made those plans work. I wanted to think we were a team, so I disregarded the warning signs, the hidden bank accounts, the justifications for not producing money. However, Logan made a mistake at 3:00 a.m. last week that he was unable to overcome. Upstairs, I was asleep when it occurred. He must have waited till I was sound asleep before slinking to my laptop downstairs. I had learned how to recognize frauds at work, but I never imagined that I would need such abilities at home. Logan gained access to one of my credit cards via my laptop that evening. He took photographs with his phone, copied the information, and then retreated to his bed as if nothing had occurred. As I was sipping my coffee the following morning, my phone began to ring with notifications. I froze when I launched my banking app. Designer clothing, pricey watches, and first-class trips to Hawaii totaled about $8,000 in charges before it finally hit me. Logan was it, of course, but I grinned rather than freaked out. He utilized a fictitious credit card associated with a training program, not a personal account. I work for a fraud detection company that teaches companies how to identify and prevent financial crimes before they get out of hand. An automated alert is sent directly to the authorities for each and every transaction on certain blacklisted accounts. It's a method meant to apprehend even the most cunning offenders. Logan didn't know. He simply stepped into the ideal trap. That morning, my phone buzzed with an alert. A high-risk transaction flagged on one of our test accounts. My stomach dropped as I read the details. Logan, my own husband. I called my lawyer, Olivia, right away. "You're not going to believe this," I told her, recounting everything as quickly as I could. She didn't even try to hold back her laughter. Wait, let me get this straight," she said between chuckles. "He stole a dummy card, the one linked to fraud detection." "Exactly," I said, unable to keep the satisfaction from my voice. I don't think he had a clue what he was doing. He probably thought he was being clever. "Clever?" Olivia snorted. "Every charge he makes is going to set off alarms. Has law enforcement reached out yet?" "Not yet," I said, "but it's only a matter of time." For the next few days, I stayed quiet, waiting to see just how far Logan would take this. Then 3 days later, I found a note on the kitchen counter. "Taking some time for myself. Don't wait up." I knew exactly what that meant. He was using my stolen money to lag it up somewhere extravagant. Each night, I watched the fraud alerts roll in. High-end restaurants, 7-star hotels, luxury shopping sprees. Each notification felt like a small victory. He thought he was getting away with something. He had no idea he was only tightening the noose around his own neck. On the 4th day, my phone rang. "MS. Timothy, this is Wayne Rooney from Federal Investigations. We've identified significant fraudulent activity linked to your account. Do you know who might be responsible? I didn't hesitate. Yes, I said, my husband. There was a pause. Your husband? I explained everything. How the card was part of a cybersecurity program. How Logan had unknowingly used a flagged test card for his grand escape. Wayne Rooney let out a low whistle. That's a new one, he said. We'll need a formal statement, but based on what we've already flagged, he's in serious trouble. By the time Logan strolled back through our front door, his ego bloated from a week of indulgence, I was ready. He stepped into the living room like nothing had happened, wearing the spoils of his stolen spree, designer clothes, expensive accessories, even a new watch. Thanks for the upgrade, he said with a cocky grin. You really outdid yourself this time. I smiled back, crossing my arms. So did you. And just like that, the doorbell rang, right on cue. Logan's face fell as he opened the door to find 2 federal agents waiting. Mr. Timothy. One of them said, we need to have a word with you. And just like that, his little joyride came to a screeching halt. I couldn't hold back my laughter. It bubbled out of me before I could stop it. Logan frowned, clearly expecting me to be angry. What's so funny? He asked, his voice sharp. Oh, Logan, I said, shaking my head, you're about to find out. He dropped his fancy duffel bag onto the floor with a loud thud, looking smug. Seriously, though, Rachel, he said, shrugging off his expensive jacket and tossing it over the couch. You should have told me about the card sooner. Just imagine how much fun we both could have had. I leaned against the kitchen counter, crossing my arms. And how exactly did you think this was going to end? He smirked, kicking off his shoes like he didn't have a care in the world. You're always so uptight about money. It's not like you couldn't afford it. I figured you'd get over it once you saw how happy it made me. His confidence would have been annoying if it wasn't so ridiculous. I bit back another laugh, knowing that every word he said was just digging him in deeper. So the watches, the flights, the 7-star hotels. You thought all of that was just a gift for me? I asked, raising an eyebrow. Not thought, he said, pointing to himself. I knew it. It's about time you loosened up a little. I smiled, but it was the kind of smile that told him nothing. I didn't have to say a word. As soon as Logan disappeared into the shower, humming some out-of-tune song, I picked up my phone and sent a quick text to Olivia. He's back, ready to move forward. Her reply came instantly. Perfect. I'll call Wayne Rooney. For the past week, Olivia and Wayne Rooney had been building the case against Logan. Every single transaction he made had been tracked and recorded, from the designer stores to the luxury hotels in LA. Logan thought he was untouchable. He had no idea that he had walked straight into a trap. Wayne Rooney had told me during our last call, the fraud alerts have already triggered a full investigation. We can bring him in any time, but I suggest letting him feel safe for now. The more confident he is, the better. And now Logan was more confident than ever. He had no clue that his world was about to come crashing down. I listened to Logan's off-key singing echo from the bathroom. I felt strangely calm. For years, I had let him take advantage of my trust, my kindness, and my stability. But this time, he was finally going to face the consequences of underestimating me. A few minutes later, Logan walked out of the bathroom, wrapped in a plush towel, grinning like he had no worries in the world. He flopped onto the couch, completely relaxed. You should have seen Love, he said, digging into his bag and pulling out a shiny gold watch. The shops, the restaurants, it was like a dream. Sounds amazing, I said, leaning against the doorway. "Tell me more." That was all the encouragement he needed. He launched into a long, detailed story about his week-long shopping spree, waving his hands dramatically as he talked. He went on and on about expensive meals, designer stores, and how the champagne at some fancy rooftop bar was just perfect. Every word felt like a confession. He had no idea I was recording the entire conversation on my phone, ready to send it to Wayne Rooney. "And the best part," Logan said, holding up his new watch and admiring it. "Nobody suspected a thing, not even you." The next morning, I met Olivia for coffee to finalize the plan. "He's got no defense," she said, scrolling through all the evidence we had gathered, the fraud alerts, the charges, and now his own words from last night. "It's airtight. Wayne Rooney is ready to bring him in. They're coordinating with the local police to make the arrest." I nodded, finally feeling the weight of everything settling in. "And what happens after that?" Olivia sighed. "He'll face multiple charges: fraud, identity theft, and unauthorized use of a financial account. With the amount of money involved, it's not going to be a small punishment. Best case, he cuts a deal and avoids jail time. Worst case, he could be locked up for years." For a brief moment, I wondered if I should feel sorry for him. But then I remembered his smug grin, the way he flashed his stolen goods, how he never once stopped to think about the damage he had caused. This wasn't just a mistake. It was a pattern, one I had been blind to for far too long. That evening, Logan sat on the couch, scrolling through his phone, completely unaware that his world was about to come crashing down. I heard a knock at the door. My heart raced not with fear, but with anticipation. I walked over and opened it to find Wayne Rooney standing on the porch with two uniformed officers. "Good evening, Miss Leman," Rooney said. His voice was calm and professional, but there was a hint of warmth. "Is Logan home?" "He's right inside," I said, stepping aside. "Come in." Logan looked up from his phone, his eyebrows pulling together in confusion. He sat up straighter. "What's going on?" he asked. Wayne Rooney walked toward him, his presence making the whole room feel smaller. "Logan Leman, you're under investigation for multiple counts of credit card fraud and unauthorized use of financial accounts. We'd like you to come with us for questioning." Logan's face turned pale. His confidence disappeared in an instant. "What? No. This has to be a mistake," he stammered, looking at me desperately. "Rachel, tell them this is crazy." I crossed my arms and tilted my head slightly. "I don't know, Logan. You've been pretty busy lately. Maybe you should explain it to them." The officers began reading him his rights and guiding him toward the door. Logan's panic grew. "You can't do this, Rachel," he shouted. "This is a setup. You're my wife. Aren't you supposed to stand by me?" I leaned against the doorway, my expression calm. "Funny," I said. "I thought husbands weren't supposed to steal from their wives. Guess we're both learning something today." Logan's face twisted with anger and desperation. "You won't get away with this." I smiled. "Oh, Logan, I already have." The door closed with a sharp click as the officers led him away. The living room felt eerily quiet. I stood there for a moment, staring at the empty space where he had been just minutes ago. My heart pounded not from fear, but from the weight of the moment. He was gone. Finally, but this wasn't over. Not yet. An hour later, my phone rang. It was Olivia. "He's with Wayne Rooney now," she said, her voice steady. "They've started questioning him. From what Rooney told me, Logan's already trying to twist the story in his favor." "Of course he is," I said, rolling my eyes. Let me guess. He's playing the victim. Spot on, Olivia said with a dry laugh. He's claiming you gave him permission to use the card. But don't worry, between the fraud alerts, the charges, and your recording, he doesn't stand a chance. The next morning, Wayne Rooney called with an update. We got everything we need, Rooney said. Your husband's sorry. Soon-to-be ex-husband admits to using the card, but he says he didn't know it was part of a fraud detection program. He's trying to blame the mix-up on you. That sounds about right, I said, leaning back in my chair. What happens next? We're moving forward with the charges, Rooney explained. He's facing multiple counts of fraud and unauthorized use of a financial account. Given how much money was involved, he's looking at serious consequences. The buyer protection programs flagged all his luxury purchases, so those are being reimbursed. You won't have to pay a single cent. The relief washed over me instantly. For days, I had been carrying the weight of Logan's actions, afraid he might somehow escape the consequences. But hearing Rooney's confidence, I realized this was my victory. Thank you, I said, for everything. Don't thank me, Rooney replied. This case practically solved itself. You handled this brilliantly. The fallout hit Logan harder than I expected. Word spread quickly among our mutual friends. It wasn't long before his carefully crafted image of the charming, carefree husband started to fall apart. Judith, the woman I had suspected he was seeing, apparently dumped him the moment she heard about the charges. The designer clothes he had flaunted confiscated. The flights he had booked canceled. The banks they froze his accounts. One evening my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. Rachel. Logan's voice came through, low and tired. I need to talk to you. I couldn't help but laugh. Logan, the only thing you need to do is figure out how to explain yourself to the judge. Please, he said, his tone shifting to desperation. I messed up, okay? I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was just what? I cut him off, my voice cold. Just trying to steal $80,000 from me? Just hoping I wouldn't notice. Just counting on me being too blind or too forgiving to stop you. Silence. Then finally, in a small voice, he muttered, I thought you loved me. I let out a sharp breath, my anger bubbling to the surface. I did, Logan. I loved the person I thought you were. I thought I loved you, I said. Logan took a plea deal, she said. He's avoiding jail time, but he has to pay back every cent he tried to steal. Plus, he has to complete community service, and his credit is going to be a mess for years. That sounds fair, I said. He always wanted to live the high life. Now he gets to see what it's like on the other side. Olivia laughed. You're handling this way better than most people would. I smiled to myself. It's funny. For years, I thought Logan was the one keeping our marriage together. I thought his charm, his big ideas, and his ambition were what kept us moving forward. But now, I see it clearly. I was the one holding everything up. He was just dead weight. The day my divorce papers came through, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on the couch, looking around my apartment. My apartment. Look, Logan's absence wasn't a loss. It was a gift. A chance to start fresh. A chance to rebuild my life without his constant selfishness hanging over me. As I sipped my wine, I thought about that moment he had walked through the door, so full of himself, showing off his stolen goods like he had won some prize. He had been so confident, so sure that he was the smart one. And now, He was the one paying the price. For the first time in years, I felt truly free. This wasn't just the end of a marriage. It was the beginning of a life that was finally mine. The apartment felt quiet in the days after Logan's arrest. His things were gone, what little he hadn't sold or stuffed into his designer bag. But the space felt lighter, as if the weight of his betrayal had been lifted along with him. And for the first time in a long time, I could breathe. For the first time in years, I could sit in my own home without feeling a shadow over me. One afternoon, Olivia stopped by to drop off some final paperwork. She sat on the couch with her usual, non-nonsense attitude and looked at me. "How are you holding up?" she asked. "Better than I thought I would," I admitted, handing her a cup of coffee. "It's strange, but I don't even feel angry anymore, just relieved." She smiled knowingly. "That's because you've already won. You didn't just survive this. Rachel, you came out stronger." I thought about that as we went through the documents, finalizing the details of Logan's financial restitution. It wasn't just about the money, though. Knowing he had to pay back every cent felt satisfying. It was about finally getting my life back. For years, I had let Logan control things, believing it was easier to keep the peace. But now I understood. Peace built on silence and compromise wasn't peace at all. A week later, the official divorce papers arrived. They came in a plain envelope that felt way too small to hold something so huge. I held it for a moment, letting the weight of it sink in before opening it. My eyes scanned the legal jargon until I found the words that mattered most: finalized, irrevocable. I sat down at the kitchen table, holding the letter in my hands, and allowed myself a moment to take it all in. This wasn't the life I had imagined when I married Logan. I had dreamed of stability, partnership, and a future built on trust. But looking around at the home I had rebuilt for myself, I realized I had something better: freedom, clarity, and the knowledge that I was stronger than I had ever given myself credit for. That evening, Megan came over with a bottle of wine and my favorite takeout. "To new beginnings," she said, raising her glass. "And to the absolute dumpster fire you just walked away from." I laughed, clinking my glass against hers, to never settling for less than I deserve. In the weeks that followed, I started putting my new life together. I redecorated the apartment, adding splashes of color and personal touches that felt like me. For the first time in a long time, everything felt right. I finally took the solo vacation I had been dreaming about for years. I spent my days exploring the coast, enjoying the quiet, and feeling the kind of peace that only comes from leaving everything behind, at least for a little while. Logan tried to contact me a few more times. He sent vague apologies through mutual friends, emails that meant nothing, and even a ridiculous letter claiming he had changed. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. He had made his choices, and I had made mine. Every now and then, I heard bits and pieces about his life. He was struggling to find work, his reputation ruined by the fraud charges. He had moved back in with his parents, still convinced he could talk his way out of anything. I didn't feel sorry for him. If anything, I felt relieved. He wasn't my problem anymore. A month after everything was finalized, I stood by my apartment window, sipping my morning coffee and watching the city wake up below. Sunlight filled the room, shining on the fresh coat of paint. I had chosen my favorite shade of blue. The space no longer felt like a battlefield. It felt like home. It was peaceful, it was mine, and it was full of possibilities. I thought about the journey that had led me here. For years, I had believed in marriage, in the idea of building a life with Logan. I had ignored that little voice in my head warning me that something was wrong. that his charm was just a cover for selfishness. But now, I understood something important. Walking away wasn't failure, it was strength. That weekend, Megan and I met for brunch, a new tradition we had started since Logan left. Over mimosas and waffles, she looked at me and asked, "So what's next for you?" I smiled, feeling a calm excitement I hadn't felt in a long time. "Honestly, I'm just focusing on myself right now. Work is going great, and I've been thinking about taking a longer trip, maybe somewhere quiet, near the mountains." She raised her glass. "That's what I like to hear. You deserve it." For the first time in years, I felt truly free. I was finally making decisions for me. No compromises, no second guessing, just the freedom to live life on my own terms. Sometimes I still heard updates about Logan from mutual friends. He was struggling to rebuild his life, jumping from one low-paying job to another while trying to pay back the money he owed. The designer suits and fancy vacations were long gone, replaced by a reality he never saw coming. But I didn't waste time thinking about him. He made his choices, and I made mine. His last email correspondence with me was a lengthy, wordy apology that sounded more like self-pity than sincerity. Without responding, I erased it after reading the first few sentences. He didn't have to give me closure. I'd already discovered it in myself. I took a glass of wine one evening while sitting on my balcony, reflecting on all that I had endured, including the grief, the betrayal, and the struggle to reclaim what was rightfully mine. All of it had culminated at this moment. Although difficult, it was worthwhile. I was no longer resentful or furious. I was thankful, if nothing else. Logan's treachery made me realize how strong I am. It inspired me to take charge of my life once more, to prioritize myself, and to stop settling. I discovered how to respect my individuality, follow my gut, and never let anybody else to dictate how happy I am. I lifted my glass to the night sky as the distant city lights flickered. "Here's to me," I said. "Here's to starting over." I then permanently closed the chapter on Logan, prepared to welcome whatever was ahead.